Hello and welcome back to Coursecast. My name is Tim Mears. Today I'm exploring psychology at the University of Oxford. Here's some highlights from today's episode.
I think I just read books that really interested me. So they ranged a lot from stuff about psychopaths to stuff about consciousness. And
Ooh,
I just
that
kind of
sounds really
found little
interesting.
niches that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
So I actually didn't find the transition too hard. The main thing is obviously that you're really independent.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's important to kind of practice those skills of independent research outside of like your lesson time. It's just things that you're interested in is just, yeah, a really good thing that probably helped me in the transition. I probably would have done more of.
As much as Oxford likes to pretend that everybody here is like a mega genius who's like
Mm.
academically invincible, most of us aren't. Um, and yeah, it can be tough at times, but at the same time, you're all in the same boat, so everyone supports each other. Great. Could you both introduce yourself, please? Let's hear Hannah first.
Hiya, I'm Hannah. I'm a second year. I'm studying experimental psychology and I study at Worcester.
Cool.
Hey, I'm Anjali. I'm a first year. I'm also doing experimental psychology and I am at Somerville.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And Anjali, can you tell us why you decided to do psychology?
Yeah, so I actually originally wanted to do a different course, which is PPL, which allows you to do psychology with linguistics. But then I kind of slowly realized over time that the part of linguistics I was really super interested in was kind of the more social aspect of it. And that led me to experimental psychology, which is a really broad course actually encompassing a very scientific, almost biological aspect to psychology, but then all the way to the kind of social stuff that linguistics has as well. So that was kind of why I wanted to pick the
Cool.
course.
Nice one. Hannah, anything to add?
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to study psychology just because I liked reading psychology books.
Cool.
I thought I wanted to study education for a bit, and then I realized I wanted to do something more academic, and psychology kind of seemed perfect for me. I really, enjoyed reading psychology books, and that's
Great. And then what sort of like prior experiences did you have? Like what A levels? You mentioned like books you'd read, that sort of thing. What like specific examples can you give of things that were like, I suppose, important on your journey towards studying psychology? Hannah, you can start.
so. Yeah, so I studied maths, further maths, chemistry, and psychology at A level, um, and yeah, I think I just read books that really interested me. So they ranged a lot from stuff about psychopaths to stuff about consciousness. And
Ooh,
I just
that
kind of
sounds really
found little
interesting.
niches that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Mm. I actually didn't do A levels. I studied the International Baccalaureate, which is obviously like a different course, which allows you to study 6 subjects, 3 at a high level and 3 at a standard. And my high levels were biology, psychology, and history. So kind of a mix of some science, some humanities, which was really interesting. In terms of like reading books and stuff, I have to say because I decided on the course fairly late,
Yeah.
I didn't like do so much super curricular stuff, which I think is okay because I found from my application it's not really about the quantity, more like the quality of
Yeah, for
what you can
sure.
really
For
talk
sure.
about. But I was able to like talk to some family friends who are one of them running a clinic for people with brain injuries, and another one doing research about perception. So that was really interesting.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let me know kind of what your thinking was for choosing psychology. What actually is it? Like, what are you actually studying? What questions are you answering
Mm.
when you're doing psychology, Anjali?
I think a lot of the main question is how does the brain work and how does this translate to our behavior? Because I don't know, we look a lot at research and how research methods work over time. For example, like one of my recent essays, I was kind of comparing how early techniques to study the brain compared to techniques to study now and what that actually changes about our understanding of psychology. So, an early understanding might have been that certain parts of the brain only do certain things, whereas now we know that they work in more kind of networks.
Okay.
So that's kind of one of the main questions is how exactly does the brain connect together in order to like not really cause, but like, lead to different behaviors.
So not only are you studying like what we understand now, but also like
Mm.
the process that led up to that
Yeah,
understanding.
absolutely. Yeah. I think that's kind of why it's called experimental psychology because we're looking at the
Yeah,
methodologies,
cool.
that led to our discovery and what we know now.
And psychology is really interesting in terms of methodology because it is kind of a science, but there's also some really dodgy science out there
Okay.
because that it's not quite as empirical as chemistry or maths where
Mhm.
you can test it and you know for sure whether it's true or not. So it is so important that we study what's been done in psychology in the past to understand what mistakes not to make again.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is essentially the study of behavior, and we look at it really zoomed in at the level of like neuron synapses, and then we also study it really zoomed out. So how do groups of people behave together, and how do they interact, and different cultures and that sort of thing, and from such a variety of different angles. So sometimes you're looking at computational models, sometimes you're looking at neuroscience, sometimes you're looking at you define all these different things differently, so really interesting and varied.
Cool. And have there been any highlights for either of you in terms of things that you thought, oh, this is like makes me so happy to be studying experimental
Mhm.
psychology?
Yeah, I mean, our first module was developmental psychology, which I found really interesting because I guess kind of like you, I was really interested in education, and like how we come to have our like cognition that we have as an adult, and obviously that develops in different ways. I think I really enjoyed looking at like a module on faces, whether infants can kind of detect a face as a very unique stimuli, or whether faces are kind of see the same way as objects. That was something I found
Ah,
really interesting, kind of
cool.
right at the start of the course.
Mm. Yeah, I love going to lectures and just sitting there and like my mind gets blown sometimes. So especially like the neuroscience stuff or the
Yeah.
the the cognitive models of things, and then they provide some evidence and it fits satisfactorily together.
Yeah.
That doesn't often happen. A lot of times you kind of leave lecture kind of with more questions than you came in with, but when there's a really satisfying model or suggestion, um, it's really cool. Yeah.
Great. And I know you've already mentioned a bit about it being experimental psychology, but can you make it really explicit? Like, why is experimental psychology at Oxford like a unique course as opposed to just studying normal psychology somewhere else?
Um, yeah, so it is fairly different from other psychology courses. Um, the way I think of it is that we study very pure psychology. So, as opposed to perhaps some people would focus more on the applications of some of the things we're studying, so like criminal psychology or like focusing more on mental health, I suppose. We study kind of the very basics of where does all that come from. Um, I studied maths at A level, so I like that kind of analogy of it's like the pure maths rather than the
Right.
mechanics or
Oh,
the
cool.
statistics
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, it's very empirical, evidence based.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. I think something that was really like notable to me was the fact that when I first started last term, we didn't come in and do a research methods like thing at the start. Whereas a lot of courses that I know of, their first module is just research methods.
Mm.
Whereas I think for us that is very much just ingrained throughout the entire course that you really can't go anywhere without understanding the methods behind what we're learning. So it's not just like separate in a block, it's really ingrained throughout everything we're learning is about the methodology behind it, and that's why it's so experimental.
Hmm. And I suppose as well, because like, well, basically all courses at Oxford, it's very much equipping you so that you can go on and do masters, PhD,
Mhm.
etc. And so I guess that makes sense as well from that perspective, in that you may learn like maybe less of the like actual psychology content, but more of the kind of how do you do psychology, how do you make new discoveries, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, that kind of fits well within the kind of the Oxford orientation towards research. Um, Now, tell me about your sort of day to day, because you mentioned lectures and how much you enjoy those, but what does it look like in terms of how many hours of lectures a week, contact hours, tutorials, how do tutorials work, what kind of work are you doing in between tutorials, all those sorts of things. Give me like an idea of what a week or 2 weeks, whatever, in a psychology student's life looks like.
Do you want to do first
Yeah,
year
I'll do
first?
first year first. So currently we have three like modules. We have psychology, we have neurophysiology, and we have statistics, which is currently all based on Python. So it's all coding, which is really interesting because I've never done any coding before. And we have three tutorials a week for each of those, and about 2 or 3 lectures for each one. So the contact hours aren't incredibly heavy compared to some of the other sciences. Obviously, compared to humanities, it tends to be a bit more, but we don't have any
Yeah.
labs in first year, so that is quite different. But for so I currently have like 2 essays a week and one kind of problem sheet type coding thing for the statistics module.
Nice. Yeah, so in second year, you kind of delve a little bit further into psychology. So you stop doing neurophysiology, and the psychology gets separated into 6 modules. So behavior neuroscience, perception, cognition, developmental, and social, and individual differences in clinical psychology. Almost forgot that one. So you study half of those in the first term and half in the second term, which leaves third term for revision, which is quite nice. And all throughout, you're studying experimental design and methods. So we learn R in second year in order to basically give us as big a range of programming as you can. And you also in that do labs, which aren't like other science labs. They're a lot of doing kind of online computer tasks that would be done in experiments and then getting
For
that data.
example,
So, for example, there was one about whether if there's a picture of a face looking at a stimulus on the computer, whether that would change like your reaction time to other stimuli on the.
so you're like doing
on the-
tests on yourself almost.
Yeah, you're
That's
kind of
cool.
doing the tasks that would be done in experiments, but kind of like online, basically ones that are accessible to
Yeah.
do within practicals that we get given, and then we analyze the data and we write up lab reports and technical exercises. We do 6 essays in 8 weeks, so I find that a lot nicer. I prefer that to the 2 essays a week in
It's quite
first year, because
intense,
that's
isn't
quite a
it?
It
lot.
does
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot.
It is a lot.
But it does mean you can get a lot more depth in your reading and how you're writing your essay, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and then what about assessment? What does that look like?
First year?
Yeah, so obviously we have these things called collections at the start of each term, which are kind of like mock exams. They're a bit more casual. So I've just completed one set of those. And then you have your prelims, which is the exams at the end of the first year. So we've actually just changed to handwritten exams for the psychology unit. It's probably different. It's
I
just
didn't
changed
know
this
that.
year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
so
Um,
back from type.
Back from typed and open book
Do you know
to
why?
closed book. I think it's just because of AI.
Yeah, fair
actually.
enough. Yeah, makes sense.
So it's gone to closed book and handwritten for psychology module. We have to write 5 essays, one for each topic, and they're like 35-minute, 1,000-word essays. And then you have neurophysiology. We have multiple choice, and then we have typed essays. And then for statistics, it's open book actually, which is really nice, computer based. Just kind of working through some coding problems. Yeah.
Cool. And how does that change for second year?
So second year for psychology, your end of year exams go 20% towards your final grade.
Right.
If you're doing the 4-year course, if you're doing the 3-year course, I believe it's 40%. And we do collections as well, which is basically being tested on the stuff you did last term. And in the final exam, you have 1 hour an essay. You do 6 essays, so 1 on each of the psychology units you've done. And then you have a multiple choice question exam on all of the 6 at the same time,
Wow.
which is,
That's crazy.
a
A lot.
lot. And we also have a multiple choice exam on the statistics. And we also have our lab reports and technical exercises that are kind of like coursework throughout the year.
Cool. And then how have you both found kind of the transition from doing A levels or IB to being at university and I guess doing maybe more work, certainly harder work? How has that been? Maybe Angela, you share first because it was a bit more recent for you.
Yeah. So I actually really like the IB in that it does, I think, give you a really good basis to go off into university, because we do so much like exercising and critical thinking. We have so much coursework, doing essays in a kind of similar way, obviously of a lower level, but in a similar way to how I'm writing now. So I actually didn't find the transition too hard. The main thing is obviously that you're really independent.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's important to kind of practice those skills of independent research outside of like your lesson time. It's just things that you're interested in. Is just, a really good thing that probably helped me in the transition. I probably would have done more of if I could do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did struggle a little bit because I'd done quite sciencey A levels. I wasn't so used to writing essays as maybe you might have been with more humanities. And that's definitely something that I'm still working on, is like writing essays. But yeah, it is a lot more independent. I think that's I quite enjoyed that transition. because it meant that I could kind of spend my time as I wanted to and when I wanted to. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I found it a bit tricky in terms of just going from having an extremely structured, like entire week basically by
Yeah.
school, and then suddenly you have this one or two tasks that have to be done by this date, and
Mm.
everything else is up to you. But it's good to hear that both of you have sort of managed that well. Have you got any advice for people during that transition in terms of how can you, what strategies can you use to make sure that it doesn't just devolve into chaos?
I think what's really important to note is that first year doesn't go towards your final
Yeah,
grade. You only need to get 40%. And so I think actually there's a lot of value in trying your best in first year, accepting you're not going to get it right, failing potentially in whatever way you define failing,
yeah,
and getting up and trying again, so that when you go into second year and it matters slightly more, I suppose you have made those mistakes and you're not going to make them again when it does matter.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's helpful to hear. Like,
Yeah.
because it can feel super overwhelming. Obviously, you arrive at university, you're over Oxford University, and it seems like everyone around you knows what they're doing, when really
yeah.
they're
So
all
true.
actually they don't.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone's got the whole rest of their life mapped out. Actually, like everyone is in the same boat. Everyone is adjusting to a really big change in their lives, both academically and socially. So it's okay. I just find it's okay to just kind of treat yourself nicely and remember, as you say, like
Yep.
it is a big shift. And just like small changes can make a big difference. Like me personally, I just, even something as simple as like a daily to-do list
Yeah,
or making a plan for your day the night before, like can be really helpful for making new routines when you don't have a lot of structure in the day.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, similarly, like I think you learn to manage, and also you become aware that actually the people around you aren't like
Yeah.
they're struggling a bit too.
Hmm.
Um, and as much as Oxford likes to pretend that everybody here is like a mega genius who's like
Mm.
academically invincible, most of us aren't. Um, and yeah, it can be tough at times, but at the same time, you're all in the same boat, so everyone supports each other. Yeah, I wanted to also ask you guys about tutorials as well, because that's quite a reasonably Oxford unique thing, or at least the amount
Hmm.
of tutorial time. Um, how do you find learning in that setting, especially compared to like A levels IB? And why do you think it's a good thing for psychology? What maybe I don't know if there are any drawbacks, but if you could think of some, that'd be interesting as well. Yeah, I don't really mind who goes first, but
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting way of learning because it's kind of like if you sit in a classroom and you talk through something with your friend, it's kind of like that, except there's an expert in your field there
yeah,
who's aiming to
Mm.
stretch you past your full potential, which is really interesting and helpful because it just allows you to keep a really open mind, hear kind of the feedback from your tutor and also from your peers who have obviously different ideas about the topic than you might have. Yeah, I find it really helpful. I find it a really good way to kind of consolidate a topic before we move on to the next week's topic. My tutorials look quite different for each subject. So
okay,
actually, my stats tutorials are kind of more like workshops where we just work through exercises and the tutor comes around if we need help. Whereas psychology is very much like kind of debate based on different theories. We each present our essays and we can kind of like interrogate each other a little bit in a friendly way. And then neurophysiology is slightly more to do like similar to how like the medics do their tutorials, where they kind of do more like learning and talking through different like, concepts in
right,
themselves. So they tutorials can look really different. Like a tutorial doesn't mean the same thing for each subject, or
mm,
even within a subject for each module.
Yeah, and even between tutors, like all the
Mm, mm,
tutors will do them differently, and that's not really something you can predict or know
yeah.
before you come here. I think like absolutely some are used for consolidation, and some are they're also really useful for like if you just don't understand
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like I think sometimes it's easy to think that like once you've gone to the lecture, you're supposed to know everything and understand it all. Actually, that's kind of I feel now that actually tutorials are a lot for asking those questions and
Mm,
picking up on things that you didn't understand. So when you move on to the next thing, which we do really quickly move on to the next thing, you've kind of answered those questions that you needed answered.
yeah. And I suppose it gives you a time where you can really reflect and like scrutinize your own
Yeah.
understanding, and hopefully like tie up all the loose ends, or at least enough of the loose ends from that week, so that you can
Mm.
move on to the next one. That's certainly been my experience. Although sometimes I just think, oh, I don't understand it even more now. But most of the time it's useful. um, Another question for you guys in terms of this is maybe more abstract, but what sort of qualities makes for a good psychology student? Like, what do you think makes you a successful psychology student? And what are you still working on to, make, hopefully you do the best you can here.
Mm. I think you mentioned it a little bit with your IB, but critical thinking is super, super important. That might be a bit vague, but just as I said earlier, like you can't always trust everything that is claimed in psychology, and you can see it in the media as well. Like there's so much fake stuff out there. You have to really be able to think for yourself and ask yourself if you yourself believe it, even if other people believe it, or and also again, not really psychology specific, but just a genuine love and passion for
Mm,
the subject. Like you're not going to enjoy your time at Oxford and probably in any university doing a degree if you don't actually enjoy it and want to be
yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yeah.
Has there been any cases where like psychology has changed your viewpoint, or you've noticed it's changed? Like you're more aware of certain things in the world, because you said about how people are making stuff up all the time in the newspapers or
Mm.
whatever. Were you always aware of that, or is that and is there a way that psychology has changed your thinking? I guess.
It's definitely made me think when I'm reading media, even if they quote something or claim something, just not to take it at face value. And yeah, I've always got that kind of critical thinking that I've developed going on, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, definitely. It also allows you to keep a really open mind because,
Mm.
like, if you have one set viewpoint and you write that in an essay, it's not going to do very well. Like, you have to just consider so many different perspectives and be okay with the fact that your perspective, there might be a study tomorrow which proves or not
Mm.
proves, but provides evidence strongly
Yeah,
against
yeah,
what you
yeah.
had previously believed. And that's great. Like, that's a really enjoyable thing. And it shouldn't be something that you're kind of put off by. So I think going back to your question, like, good characteristics of someone who studies psychology, yeah, just really open-minded and
Yeah.
engaged in critical thinking, and also kind of really eager to keep up with modern, like, upcoming research, like
Mm.
articles in press and kind of things that even haven't properly been published yet, because obviously our understanding can change literally on the daily.
Yeah.
So being really, yeah, up to date.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And in terms of you're talking about keeping up with research and stuff, is that something that either of you have in mind in terms of afterwards, doing like further study? Obviously, it's an integrated masters if you want it to be.
Mm.
Um, what does that look like? Is that something you guys are interested in doing? And if not, what are your other options?
Yeah. So just an important note for anyone who's thinking of applying is that you when you apply, it's kind of like you opt out of the fourth year. So
Right.
when you apply, you'll get put on the fourth year course. And then if you want to do the 3-year course, then in second year, we're about to get asked, do you want to do the 3-year course instead? Um, in terms of where I want to go with it, I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
I would like to do the fourth year because I think that's such a cool way of kind of seeing the other side of psychology. You know, we're still more on the student side of it right now, but I think in the master's year you kind of get to be more on the research side.
Okay.
Mm.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't know. There's so many options.
Mm.
Maybe clinical, maybe research, maybe something completely different.
Cool.
Yeah, there really are so many options. Like, it's such a transferable degree. I also don't really know where I'm going with it currently, but maybe like policy, like educational policy, or even like you can go into marketing and business through psychology. You can obviously go into like education or into research. So those are probably some of the options I'm thinking through at the moment. But
Yeah. Great. I mean, certainly for me, I don't know what I want to do
yeah,
yet.
Mm.
But I think Oxford's quite helpful in that they put on loads of, I mean, I'm sure most universities do this, put on loads of careers events and have
yeah,
careers advisors and
yeah,
stuff, um, who are there to basically be your like
Yeah.
your coach or whatever, which is quite cool. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about what it is to study psychology here. How did you guys get to study psychology here? What sort of admissions advice did you have? I mean, I guess I'd appreciate you to talk through kind of the whole process, really.
hmm
Maybe Angela, you go first 'cause it's more recent.
yeah. So there is an admissions test. We both did the TSA, but actually I think it's just
Mm.
changed
Was it?
Really?
recently to, I think it's called the Tara. I don't know anything about it.
Right. Okay.
So I won't really bother going into the TSA because, as far as I might be wrong, but as far as I know, it has just recently changed to the Tara. As along with like most Oxford admissions tests, I think have
Huh.
recently changed. So that's definitely something that you should look into. In terms of personal statement, obviously, which has also recently just changed. You kind of have that now. You have
Three
that three
questions,
question
yeah.
model
Yeah.
of kind of what have you done? Why do you want to study psychology? For me, that was really a kind of flow of different experiences I'd done and kind of books I'd read or just like podcasts I'd listened to on the bus. Like it can be super casual things. I wrote that kind of over the summer and after the summer, and then obviously you kind of apply in October, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those kind of super curriculars, I kind of collected those just
Passively almost.
just passively in the months before the summer. Like it wasn't like a big thing. It was more like if I had any dead time when I was on the bus, I just listened to a podcast. And over time, you kind of build this bank of just ideas that you can kind of write into your personal statement. So I found that helpful.
And were there any specific resources that you thought, oh, that was really brilliant? I really valued that.
Mm, there are a lot of, I don't know, I can't actually think of any off the top of my head. For admissions tests, there's loads of YouTube videos, just like free YouTube videos of people who have done it before,
Yeah, sure.
who can give really helpful advice. Because, I mean, I can't speak for the TARA, but for the TSA, there's not like, there are loads of like extremely expensive crash
Yeah,
courses,
yeah.
which just, they all kind of say the same thing as a YouTube video will
Yeah.
say that you can watch for free. So I
Yeah.
don't think there's like a be all or end all of really important resources for admissions because there's so much good free stuff out there made by like our students.
And what did you engage with for your personal statement? Like what sort of podcasts, books, that kind of thing?
Just like podcasts on Spotify about a whole range of things. I had a lot of like social stuff because I was interested in social psychology quite a lot. I had some clinical stuff from literally talking to a family friend
Cool.
who was working where I live. So just kind of small things.
That all kind of came together and
Yeah,
built
I
up.
didn't have any like crazy big work experience, and I think it's important to know that it can feel like you need that.
Yeah.
Actually, if you don't have access to that or you just kind of don't get round to it, that's fine. Like they're not interested in what you've done, they're interested in what you've taken out of that and what that's taught you and what you've done with it next.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Like the chain.
I guess it's more of an indicator of your potential as well.
Yes, completely.
Than all you're already brilliant psychologists. Because if you're already a brilliant psychologist, I mean they'll probably take you, but like you'll probably get less out of the whole experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's actually it would be, well, I would think it's more impressive if you're able to take something that maybe isn't as obviously linked to the course of psychology and you've been able to show how it actually has really impacted your desire to do the course. Yeah.
What was your sort of personal statement process like?
Yeah, so I started it around the start of summer as well. I think for me it was a big reflection exercise of like, am I actually going to do this? Am I actually going to apply to Oxford, and why? And so I think I just started writing down the reasons why I
What
wanted
were the
to.
reasons out of interest?
I just really enjoyed reading stuff. It was
That's a good answer.
it
Yeah.
was literally that, and it was kind of more like I find the ways in which we learn stuff about behavior really interesting. So all of the different techniques and all the technology, and I also find that the logical side of things and making the logical arguments and trying not to fall into traps of like just logical traps of like
Yeah.
making conclusions that you can't make from evidence that might show something but doesn't go all the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as I said, I'd read a lot of books, and not just for the personal statement. I just kind of read them because
You
I
enjoyed it.
got given some at the start of sixth form that was like, maybe if you're like the A level, you should read these, and so I kind of did, and I kept going basically. So I just picked out a couple for my personal statement that really interested me. And
Do you
then
remember what they were? No.
one was called Consciousness Explained by Daniel Dennett, which
Oh, cool.
was so complicated, and I read it all, and I came out, my mind was blown. I didn't understand much of it, but I just thought it was so cool. And so yeah, I wrote a little bit about that. I was really interested in consciousness at the time, and so then I looked into some kind of present theories of consciousness, more biologically based, more neuroscience, and spoke a bit about that. And then I'd done some work in primary school, so I talked a bit about that and dance and linked it all into psychology.
Cool. And I suppose that's a really good model as well because you're you're taking quite an eclectic range of different things and using psychology to kind of draw a narrative between all
Mm.
these different parts of your life. And so, like you were saying, it's sort of you don't need to make it a big thing that I have to read like 10 books for my personal statement. No, you just have to like take the experiences and use them strategically. And maybe it is you need to read a book or two because you haven't been doing enough reading.
Mm.
And that's fine. But it doesn't just have to be a big list of books you've read. And probably if it is, it's not very good because there's so much more than just saying, I read this book and I read that book.
But it's also about being you, right? If you're not someone who reads books, don't read
Yeah,
books.
yeah,
I really
true.
like reading books, so I read books. You're gonna have the most genuine personal statement, which I personally think that's what it's about. It's showing you have a genuine passion. If
Mm.
you've actually done something that you want to do outside of school in your own time.
Mm. Yeah, just on that, I don't think I had a single like full book in my personal statement. Like I had essays from books, and I had like magazine articles, like the Nature magazine. I had an article from there, and then like podcasts and experiences. Like you don't have to have read. Obviously, it's really helpful if you've read books, but it's personal statement isn't all just, as you said, it's not a list of books.
Yeah. I mean, even I'm just thinking now, like, it's not like at Oxford, it's not for me. You don't just get told, read this book. It's like, read this chapter or
Yeah.
these 20
Yeah.
pages or whatever from this book. And you might read a whole book across a term, but it's not like you're going to have to like be this absolute monster at reading where you could just like crush 3 books in a week,
Yeah.
you know?
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. That's useful advice, guys. I'm now interested to hear what are you doing outside of your degree? It can be psychology related. I don't know. You might have non-psychology things. I certainly have non-PPE things. Yeah. What do you get up to kind of make the most of being at Oxford, apart from degree, of course?
So I do some dance.
Cool.
I've got involved in some different social dancing lessons, which is really
Were
fun.
you at the Cayley?
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
It
nice.
was so much fun. Yeah, and I'm involved in a church in Oxford, and I also go wild swimming.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. Wild swimming, I can. If you do end up coming to Oxford, wild swimming, good times.
it's good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, really good fun. And it's nice as well because you interact with people that you just wouldn't otherwise. That's the thing that
Yeah.
I really like about societies in general. It's like it gets you out of your college, and sometimes it's
Mm.
good to have some people who aren't at college, and kind of broaden your friendship groups, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently playing college football, which
Ooh,
is really, really fun.
how's the season going for you guys?
Well, we just lost yesterday, but other than that, we've been winning a fair
Okay,
bit.
cool.
So
Good job.
yeah, it's pretty good. I also am quite involved in like Christian Union and again like a church as well. What else do I do? Oh, I have my own like social media account which takes up some time, and I'm
Yeah.
now doing my college TikTok account. So
Oh, cool.
it's
Been
all kind of
promoted.
yeah, follow the Somerville TikTok. It's all like building up.
Oh,
You
you
know?
do some of. Oh my
Well,
goodness,
it's
I've
just
watched
started.
those.
No, you
Oh, not,
haven't.
not not your new ones. Okay,
A
I've
new
watched the old
there's a new
ones.
Somerville. No, there's never been a Somerville account.
Oh, maybe it's the basketball account that I did for. Anyway,
But yeah, it's brand new. So I guess all those things take up time, and then like some other bits here and
and
there.
on because you both church, Christian Union, that sort of thing. How have you found that like going into Oxford as like a Christian? Just out of interest, I know it's maybe a bit of a personal question, but like because I know people who are maybe a bit apprehensive about it in terms of feeling like it might be a bit of a hostile environment or whatever. I certainly haven't found that, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's really different to school and sixth form in that obviously everyone's in a completely new stage of life, and I've just found it completely fine. Like people are happy to have a chat and like hear about your ideas about life and the world. So I haven't found kind of any hostility at all, and I've just enjoyed being able to kind of share what I think to different people.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like the conversations you can have at uni
Mhm.
are really special and interesting, and it's so cool to hear. Like you get people from such different walks of life, and you just get exposed to so many different thoughts and ideas that you wouldn't get exposed to when you're kind of where you live, I suppose. But yeah, I think also going to church or anything outside of like the uni society, Oxford, is a really
Mm.
good way of just seeing people that aren't student age,
Yeah.
like seeing adults, seeing kids. Just
Yeah.
lovely to just be around like families and people that are not students or like
Not in the bubble.
professors. Yeah, not in the bubble, and maybe don't even know what it's like to be in that bubble. It's
Yeah.
so refreshing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think, I mean, for me with basketball, I mean, it's not quite the same, but I found that a great way to engage with like people at a different stage of the student journey. Because obviously we're all undergrads, and generally that's who you'll be interacting with in college. But it's nice to talk to people who are doing their PhD or their
Yeah.
masters and like see where can I go with this and what are people doing, and like a degree of mentorship as well. Um, and then tell me about your colleges as well, because obviously that's quite a distinctive Oxford thing. What how, how do you think that college life is a positive? Do you feel like you're missing out on anything from like other universities, that sort of thing? And also, you know, you're welcome to be biased. Why is your college great?
um, yeah, so I go to Worcester College. I really love the college system, honestly. I think it's a really nice way in freshers. I mean, you were a fresher more recently, so maybe you can speak more on this. But in terms of finding people, there's a lot smaller pond, I suppose, when in the college system. So I certainly found I made friends quite quickly just
Yeah,
through consistently being exposed to the same
Mm.
people. I suppose. I think another really good thing about colleges is that the provisions are really good. Like we have a whole welfare system for a lot less people than a whole
yeah.
university,
It's more
which
sort of
makes it a lot
personal.
more accessible, a lot more personal. And I also think being in a city, like having a space. Worcester's great because it has lots of green space,
Yeah,
so shout out to Worcester. But it just gives you a bit more of a place to call home than just a whole city.
yeah, and it's lovely. I mean, on the green space side of things, if you need to just take a break from the library, you can basically just walk around a mini park, and that's
Yeah,
so lovely to be
yeah.
able to do. Which, if you lived in like a big student accommodation block, just like wouldn't really be an option.
Mm.
So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really special. I think kind of the college system is one of the main reasons I really wanted to come to a university like Oxford that has that collegiate system. It just feels like you have a little home away from home. Kind of as you were
Yeah,
saying, like you see the same people, you eat with the same people, there's always people around, there's people on your course living nearby you, and you have those people in your tutorials, at least in first year, like you're with the people from your college in your tutorials mostly, in psychology. So that's really nice. And obviously you have like college sport, which is like not really very hard to get into. Like
yeah,
I literally haven't played football since year six, and yet I'm playing college football. Like it's just good fun. There's good vibes, and then you have like good college rivalries. I think it's just like really really fun. They're kind of like childish, but it's good.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, the college rivalry side of things, I had a college netball match this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some college rivalries going on there.
Yeah.
But no, it's good fun. And also, like you were saying, Hannah, in terms of because you're just seeing the same people all the time. Probably half of my friends in Oxford are just because I happen to live nearby them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that college experience and also being able to eat together, that sort of thing, same meal times because of pool, it's just really a good environment where you can really easily get to know people and make some really good friendships. I think that's also if for people who maybe worry about like socially going to this whole new place with all these new people, and I mean, I literally knew nobody who was going to Oxford,
Mm.
but like, there's so many people and there's so many things you can get involved in. It's like your college, yes, great. You'll like chances are you'll make loads of great friends there, but if you don't, there's a society literally for anything.
Yeah.
So like, I was looking through
Yeah.
the other day because we've got some exchange students from the US, and they were like going through the societies, like which ones do we want to do? And it's like there's so many like totally random
Yeah.
societies.
Toast
It's great.
Society, I
Toast
believe.
Society is
I
there.
believe.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah.
had that.
All good stuff. Right, great. Is there anything else that you guys think I have missed? I should have asked you about psychology, or if I've
Mm.
covered everything, then that's even
I
better.
think I'd just be aware that if you are considering applying to Oxford for psychology, it is very, very scientific. Like I think we've kind of touched on this, but like it is important to know that you will be doing coding, you'll be studying like the neuroanatomy of the brain in very, very intense detail. Like it involves, aspects of chemistry and physics and maths. So don't be put off by that,
No.
but it is important to know that, if you haven't studied biology, like maybe start doing some reading. You might even want to look at coding. Like I hadn't coded before and it's fine. but you could get ahead if you want to.
Yeah. I've got friends who hadn't done science A levels,
Hmm.
and though they've been absolutely fine, it definitely wasn't something they necessarily expected.
Yeah.
So I echo that. Like, it's absolutely fine if you haven't done that and you're not put off by that. But if it makes you, if that doesn't sound like something you'd like to do, then maybe
Yeah.
have a think about it.
Mm.
I think one thing I'd like to say, just on the general Oxford application stuff, if you're thinking, do I do it, do I not, I really encourage you just to apply. I think and this sounds a bit crazy, but what's really good about the application process is you kind of don't have to make the decision yourself whether you get in or not.
Yeah.
The tutors make that decision. So if you're not sure whether you're capable or not, you're not the only person who has to decide. Like, the tutors will also decide because
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
application process. So actually, there really isn't anything to lose. If you want to be here, apply. And if you don't get in, that doesn't necessarily say that you're not capable, because I think it's not a perfect system. But they want what's best for everyone. And if you are capable, then they will do their best to give you a space.
Yeah, I think that's really useful advice as well, because there can definitely be a degree of sort of imposter syndrome when you
Yeah.
arrive here. It's like, oh, I'm at Oxford, and like apparently, like all these great academics or whatever have come out of it, and it's sort of it feels like you're not that great. I mean, that's certainly I just feel quite mediocre here.
Yeah.
But actually, being reminded, oh, actually, you were picked, and the tutors believe that you're good enough to do it, is quite a useful thing to remember when you've got two essays due on Monday, which happens to be the case for me right now. Although I suppose maybe they didn't pick me for my organizational prowess. Anyway, great. Now, my final kind of question for you both is, what advice would you give to like a year 10, 11, 12 student who, I mean, I suppose you've already talked about, yes, just go for it, apply. And it can be you in that situation. It could be a generic student. But what is like the thing that people should take away from this if they forget everything else?
I would say just kind of slow down a bit. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself at kind of the early stage of, wherever you are. It's like, just make sure you're doing something you're actually passionate about. Like, enjoy doing the preparation, enjoy reading and figuring out if this could be for you. And if it's not, like, don't worry. There are so many other options out there. There are so many fantastic universities and even things beyond university. Like, this isn't the be all or end all of education. Like, just take the pressure off and make sure this is something you really enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested in something, pursue it. I think that's the main thing. Even if it takes you down a path you don't think you're going to go down, even if it seems to be taking you down two different paths at the same time, and pursue it with passion, right? Like, don't be scared of failing along the way. I think that's the main thing, is if you're interested in something, just go for it.
Definitely. And I think also you perform better if you're not like in absolute like paralytic fear of not getting in, because certainly my experience was, it was like, it would be great if I got in, but it's not, my life does not end if Oxford decides that
Yeah.
they don't want me. Um, and that made me perform better in interviews, because I slept better the night before, and I wasn't I was nervous, but I wasn't as nervous as I would have been if it was like my entire identity rests on getting into
Yeah.
Oxford. So yeah, definitely like slowing down and chilling out a bit. Sounds a bit counterintuitive, because you think, oh, I've just got to be better than everyone else and work really, really hard and work the hardest. Yeah, actually, no. Sometimes a bit of reflection and chill time can do some good. That's some advice I need to listen to as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with the interviews, it is really interesting, because I think if you go in there, well, certainly this is my perspective on it, is like, you don't want to go into the interview and try and be someone you're not, because then you're going to get into a degree based on the behavior of someone that you're not.
Yeah.
And then you're going to feel a heck of a lot of pressure to
Yeah.
behave like someone you're not.
Yeah.
Right. So I think certainly my perspective going into the interview was like, I'm just going to be myself. If they don't like it, that's
Fine.
too bad on
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
That's fine for me, but I'm just going to be myself. And that really worked for me, because it meant that I wasn't panicking, and we know from psychology that you don't want to be at too high a level of panic and
Right.
arousal when you're doing something like that. You want to be kind of a little bit not completely panicked. So
Right. Cool. Perfect. Well, thank you guys both very much for taking the time to share all your psychology wisdom with us. And thank you if you're still watching, which you will be if you're seeing this. Thank you very much for watching. And yeah, like, subscribe, share this with somebody who's interested in psychology, and goodbye from me.